What secret could ruin your life? When I was about 5 years old, my sister and I were in the backyard in a kiddie pool. When my mom went inside, I attempted to drown my sister. After I saw her lifeless, I realized that it was a big mistake, pulled her out of the pool and called for my mom. Luckily she knew CPR and she was life flighted to the hospital. My mom thanked me for saving her, pulling her out of the pool. Next week was my birthday. The police, firefighters, and paramedics came to my house to give me gifts and celebrate my birthday. To this day, 20 years later, I still think about it. I remember the day so vividly. Not a soul knows the real truth.
If you meet a version of you that's the opposite gender, what would you two be doing? I'm a triplet. I have a fraternal brother and sister. My sister and I look extremely similar. She is literally me, just the opposite gender. We look like we belong more so than my brother. He's the alien child out of the three of us. Whenever I'm out with my sister, people think we're boyfriend/girlfriend sometimes if we go to a restaurant or amusement park, which is kind of weird, but also kind of funny at the same time. But this one time a longtime childhood friend of mine took me out to get coffee at Starbucks because he had something he had to tell me, to get off his chest. He was beating around the subject until he started talking about my sister and how he ended up sleeping with her a couple months ago and had to tell me. I asked him why he was telling me this. His response was, "I got with your sister so I could be with the female version of you." Still floors me, lol.
People who ran into the person who rejected you in high school, how did it go? Met a guy back in high school in 2010. We talked and kinda liked each other but never admitted it, and apparently he thought I rejected him. Within a month, he moved schools and dated someone else. I dated someone else too. Fast forward 2 years later, bumped into each other and found out we were both not seeing anyone. Started talking again but never really pursued it. He asked me out but didn't get to go because within 2 weeks, he left for another country for university. Stopped talking after a while due to time difference and eventually lost contact. 2 years later, I got into a serious relationship with someone else. Another 6 years later, I found him on Instagram and for some reason I greeted him on his birthday through DM. He only said, "Thank you," and didn't say anything else. 5 months after my graduation, he messaged to congratulate me. So I said, "Thank you," and didn't say anything else too. Few days later, he just straight up asked if I wanted to go on a date with me. I soon learned that I was always at the back of his mind for years, and that he was low-key waiting and still hoping. Feelings were mutual as I too would have always had that. What if all these years we found our way back to each other after 8 years and finally got married just a few months ago after a decade of knowing each other? All that time wondering and never knowing killed us too, which was why he just bluntly asked me out the moment he had the chance. In his words, "I wasted 2 chances before, I'm not wasting another." Men who proposed and she said no. What happened afterwards with your life? My friend A had been with his girlfriend B for years, so he decided he wanted to propose. What he didn't know is that B was also thinking about proposing to him. A proposed first, and B freaked out because she had already set her proposal and bought a ring, so she said no. Over the next week, B freaked out more and more, and refused to answer A's calls and messages. A then decided to use the money he had saved up to buy a plane ticket to Europe. What was supposed to be a 3-month trip through Western Europe turned out to be a year-long trip around the world. One day, A says that he's coming back and B decides to go and wait for him at the airport and propose to him there. It turns out that while being in Peru, A met a girl and they fell in love almost immediately, and got married in Peru. 5 years later, A and his Peruvian wife are still happily married and recently had a baby, while B hasn't still quite forgiven herself for ruining her relationship with A. People who have had to kill in self-defense, did you ever recover from the trauma? Well, I was sitting in a gas station parking lot when a man knocked on my passenger's side window. I was waiting while my friend grabbed some beer and he had just walked in. I live in an area with a lot of homeless people and being the too nice person I am, I rolled the window down to give the guy some of the change sitting in a cup holder. He pulled a gun on me and unlocked the door to get in. I had a gun but it was in an awkward position. I had never had to pull it before so I didn't really know how well it would work, but it was the most reasonable place I could think of, not to mention I was a newbie gun owner at the time. Left side in the cup holder on the door. You never really know what the best course of action is until it happens to you. I do exactly as he says and pull away. I didn't know what the hell was going to happen but I was scared shitless and I really hoped he wouldn't see my gun. We end up pulling into an old dark parking lot. To give a little context on why what happened next happened how it did, I drive a little Kia Soul stick shift and it jumps speed bumps. Like jumps them. I see one and at this point the guy isn't really paying attention to me so I put my foot to the floor, jump this speed bump, he hits his head on the roof and his gun falls in my lap so I grabbed it and pointed it at him. At this point I expected him to get spooked and get away but I was wrong. The guy had a pocket knife and he pulled it. He stabbed me 2 times before I could get a shot off. Everything went dark and that's all I remember. When I woke up I found out he died in my car and I actually shot him 2 times. It turned into a huge legal battle because the gun was stolen and he had drugs on him. Everyone thought it was a drug deal gone bad. I've dealt with it for years and to this day am still not the same. My family disowned me because of it. I've also turned into a hermit that lives in the woods away from everyone because I don't trust anyone. It can get lonely sometimes but it's alright.